Slifer, what do you got to say for the camera?
I hate this place. I want to go home.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's been almost a month since my last video upload. I was out in Siargao, the Philippines, and then after I made that video, almost a day later, I had some pretty gnarly food poisoning. And then the day after that, I had staph infection on my leg, so I was sick for 2 weeks. And then I flew back home to America. So that is why we're behind on videos right now. I'm currently up in Colorado with my mom and her fiance's place. So the background here is a bunch of like sewing stuff and a furnace and everything else. I'm up in the mountains of Colorado in the middle of February. So that's why this video took a while to come out. Hopefully this next month, I have nothing to do. So I'm just gonna, I don't want to crank out these videos, but we're gonna work on making more of these videos. So the goal is to finish my entire military service, and then once that's done, I'll come up with some more ideas for videos. So the Write in the Rain notebook is full, so I got this cool little purple notebook that I got in Thailand with my notes in it. And so today we're going to talk about part 10 of my Navy service. So if you watched the previous video, part 9, we just finished the death hike with the Scout Sniper team, Banshee. And I was just talking about constructing my ghillie suit and moving to 29 Palms. So upon finishing the, in-dock, we had a weekend to make our ghillie suits. I was very fortunate. We had a quick hip pocket class. And then the staff sergeant from Thumper, 81mm platoon, he actually let me come over to his house, and him and I just spent a whole day getting majority of the ghillie suit done. Once we finished that ghillie suit, I would say it was like probably 80% complete over the weekend. And then fortunately for us, we were going to 29 Palms and we didn't do the pig pond immediately. So I was able to just add a little more alterations to it, more paracord, adjusting the jute, putting more reinforcement stitches on there, more shoe goo. I was very fortunate I didn't have to do it in my barracks room. I felt sorry for the guys in the barracks room because it just smelled like shoe goo, spray paint, and people were up for 16 to 18 hours working on it nonstop. Very lucky to have that staff sergeant from Thumper help me out. So once we finished the ghillie suit, the following week, this is probably like mid-January, we were going to 29 Palms for our ITX, infantry training exercise. I think that's what it stands for. Side note, I don't know where my Write in the Rain is from 29 Palms. So some of these dates and some of these acronyms may be a bit out of order, or some things may just not, I'm not going to recollect it perfectly. So we're going to do the best we can. Before going to 29 Palms, I basically spent the whole weekend packing up everything. And my main pack was probably up to my side, plus my deploy bag and assault pack and med bag. You basically had to sustain yourself for 3 months out in the middle of the desert. We got to Camp Wilson. I knew the desert was going to be cold, but I remember as we pulled up to Camp Wilson, I saw dudes in their waffle tops with beanies on and gloves and how windy it was. I knew it was going to be a very cold 2.5 months out in 29 Palms. We got to the hooches. Once we got into our hooches, we actually had to move to Tent City. Tent City wasn't too bad. I just lived on a cot. We sprung some paracord lines across, the roof, and then I lived in a cot. It's basically like it was camping, except I'm in the military now. I'd done this in the Boy Scouts before. Would I prefer the hooch? 100%. Those tents were cold, and anytime it got windy or the temperature dropped, you definitely felt it inside of that tent. At the same time, I found the tents made us a lot more bonding together as a team. One of the most unique things about this ITX was that Banshee specifically was assigned this like experimental mountain bikes, electric mountain bikes. And so there was no official name for it, but we codenamed it DIRT, or a Dark Horse Reconnaissance Team. And we basically had like a mini tryout for it. So there was only 4 of these mountain bikes. They had little trailers for them. And we were just going to experiment with, hey, our mountain bikes, specifically the mountain bikes, would these be effective in a combat scenario? Honestly, it was cool. The tryouts were pretty minimal. I was just making sure, could you ride a bike in the sand with a bunch of gear on. And luckily growing up, I'd spent a lot of time in the desert riding dirt bikes, riding Jeeps. And so I felt very comfortable riding these bikes. And like I said, I feel like a little kid. Basically, I was riding a mountain bike in the desert, which was something I'd done beforehand. You know, like a little 125, 250, definitely more powerful than these e-bikes. But still, now I'm wearing a plate carrier, a chest rig. I got a sniper rifle mounted in the front of my handlebars. I'm in a cool team of 4 guys who get to zip around these mountain bikes. It was a really sick experience. We had a bunch of follow-on missions with it, but we'll go into that depth later. So once we got the mountain bikes established, we did like a BZO range. I think it was like 2 kilometers south of Camp Wilson. Just a big hike. Honestly, I don't know what BZO stands for. I know it's something to do with zeroing your rifle, but I forget what, you know, Bravo, Zulu, Oscar stands for. Well, we got our rifle zeroed in, and then I got issued dual nods. So instead of the PVS 14, I got the PVS 31s. Those things are awesome. I'll post pictures and videos of that later. But those are some of the coolest like night vision goggles you can have in the conventional infantry, outside of the quad nods and special forces. But yeah, those PVS 31s with the Ikati, I mean, it's so freaking cool using those things. And then we began kind of our first big training op, preparation for AFX. I know FX stands for final exercise. I forget what A stands for, but we transitioned to FOB 3 out in the middle of 29 Palms, and we spent roughly 3 weeks out there. This was not a fun experience. The FOB 3 is just this giant dirt square with some guard towers, and there was zero protection from the wind. I was very cold, and most of the platoon was very cold. Thank goodness it wasn't raining or snowing. Like, you know, if you have to be cold, you want to be cold and dry, not cold and wet. So luckily it was just dry and windy. And we spent time in the little compound. You know, we did a lot of like dry firing drills. We did some range sketches, how to range find properly. We did some observation lanes. And then as we got closer to AFX, we started doing more and more stuff in the Mount Town. The Mount Town is epic. I mean, it's like the biggest combat town in all the Marine Corps in the middle of the desert. And now it's just doing training. We had some comms classes. We learned how to rappel up the side of, you know, houses, how to set up urban hide sites. Gosh, it was so cool. I would say week 1 was just welcome to FOB 3, welcome to the suck, get used to it. And then by week 2, we were doing more and more training in the Mount Town. And then by week 3 is when the actual AFX began. And this was like my first mission, if you want to call it that, as a pig within Banshee. My team was Banshee 4. And we did a lot of practice riding the e-bikes throughout the Mount Town. Again, it sounds dumb, like, oh, how to mount an e-bike and how to drive it quickly. But when you have, you know, your flak on and your bump helmet and a main pack and a mission loadout main pack at that, it takes work like mounting a bike and riding it fast. And how to properly store your bike so you can get out of a room fast, having egress routes. So we did some practice in the town. And then there was also times we just got to like go slick, and then we would just dick around in the surrounding dunes next to this Mount Town. It was awesome. Like I said, I was just riding a dirt bike without the engine. I can't, like, me talking about it and the few videos I have just don't do justice to how cool this experience was, you know? We moved into our AFX. Being part of Sniper Platoon, it's kind of cool because you have the platoon, then within the platoon you have your teams, and those teams get assigned to, you know, different companies within the battalion. Some will have like an overall support. That was kind of Banshee 4's job. The other Banshee teams would get attached, like India Company, Lima Company, Kilo Company, etc. So our mission for this with the e-bikes is that we were going to insert to the town at midnight. We had done some reconnaissance beforehand of a good house, and our mission was to observe like a notional enemy armor coming throughout the town and send those reports up to the actual battalion chain of command, and then from there they could adjust their forces. So we inserted to the town at midnight. And like I said, the prior week before, we did a lot of, on boots on the ground reconnaissance of the town. And we found a good building overlooking this cool, like, roundabout intersection within the town. Inserted at midnight, pretty easy insert, no issues there. And then it was just the 4 of us on our team. It was 3 hours off and 1 hour on. So you would observe for an hour and then go to your sleep cycle at 3 hours during the nighttime. And then the daytime, I think it was kind of like a 2-man operation. One guy would be observing, one guy kind of on security, and the other 2 guys either taking a nap or just not worrying too much about the mission. Luckily, beforehand, we had done that urban hide planning, so we'd set up our little urban hide pretty well. We also had some early detection. Oh man, these acronyms are starting to come back to me. I don't have them written down. But early detection, like warning signs, like, you put paracord on the door, you put something that falls over, so if someone comes into your hide, oh shit, okay, someone's like about to compromise your position. Some lessons I learned from we actually got compromised on this mission. So we had those early detection systems. We had like a bullet shell on the door, so when the guy opened the door, we heard a ting 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 of a bullet shell, and all of a sudden there's a dude walking up the stairs with an AK and an RPG. And all 4 of us have our rifles pointed like, freeze, motherfucker, get down. And there was just this weird Mexican standoff. One thing that's hard about this training is that obviously there's no live rounds. So while there is some threat of like compromise or something happening, it's hard to like kill someone or suppress something. It is like kind of like this weird make-believe pretend kind of thing. And simunition and airsoft and all that good jazz, if you know much about the military, specifically the Marine Corps, like the ORM for that, to have simunition, to have like live rounds, it makes training exponentially harder and even more annoying. So that being said, we were compromised. And then the guy's like, all right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to get out of here before I tell the rest of the enemies you're here. But that's when we learned the importance of being able to pack up your things rapidly and leaving minimal things out. I think all of us had like our sleeping systems out. We had a bunch of food out. Gear just kind of strewn about. There was no organization to it. I mean, 1, we didn't really expect to get compromised because we inserted a day early. And then 2, it was just our first mission. So these are all little like learning, growing pains that come with being on these teams. We packed up rapidly, hopped on the bikes, zoomed around the town. And at that point, it was just lying low because we'd inserted a day earlier, had given a report to the battalion, and now we couldn't give accurate reports to the battalion. So we had to find a new spot to actually observe the town from. At that point, the attack was still 1 day away, and it was daytime for us. So we like literally just like a bunch of Jawas from Star Wars just laid low in the surrounding hills on our mountain bikes. And we waited till about sunset before riding the e-bikes around the town and then going up this, fuck off hill. I want to say it's called the Blacktop, but don't quote me on that. And then from the Blacktop, we actually did observation on the town.
Honestly, is the best place to nap.
Good. I would say we're about a mile out from the town, and this is just the reality of being on Scout Snipers. I really enjoyed observing and providing reports. It's almost like a little game, I'm on the SSOT. I look down, I have my little map, and I have to figure out, what building is this person at? What kind of enemy is there? What's their presence? Send that report to my team sergeant, and then my team sergeant goes to the radio guy. The radio guy sends the report to the battalion, and then from there, the battalion can effectively adjust their assault and forces. And that's when I really saw the power of, being a Scout Sniper platoon, is like, you can effectively shape the battlefield. Again, I'd never seen real combat. This is all training, but from what I saw during this, I thought it was sick. And, leaving 29 Palms, I felt well prepared to go to combat, and just seeing the capability of Scout Snipers, like, sure, being a sniper, that's like, it's sexy, right? Shooting a rifle a mile away, 800 meters away. But I think the reconnaissance aspect, sending reports, being, super sneaky, I think that's really cool. Getting sidetracked there. Once the assault began on the town, we started, observing, sending reports up to the battalion commanders, at this point the company commanders. And then by the time the actual, all the companies had been inside the town, we broke down our hide site and moved into the town and started providing like notional precision fires. It's hard to explain all this training in one video. And this is more for me to recount my service. Maybe another time I'll go more in depth. But the 29 Palms staff, it's really impressive what they're able to, create for training and realism. It's a very well-oiled machine. And again, I was just blown away. This is, I've come from hospitals and this is my dream. And now here I am on a 4-man team riding e-bikes around this combat town in 29 Palms, sending observation reports, providing precision fires. I've been compromised now. My team is getting working out the kinks of being with snipers, and overall it was just a very rad experience. Upon completion of AFX, we got to flex the mountain bikes. I'll show that video next.
Hell yeah. Boys. Screaming in. Yeah, I learned how to do that.
And then once we finished our 3 weeks in FOB 3, we egressed back to Camp Wilson, and then we prepared for our next mission. Our next mission would entail actually a helicopter insertion, and then dealing with like a windstorm, dealing with some of the toughest conditions 29 Palms had to offer, which we'll talk about in the next video. So that being said, this was part 10 of my military service. We talked about 29 Palms and the FOB 3 and the Dark Horse Reconnaissance Team, DIRT. The usual, like, comment, and subscribe, and then we'll go to the next video. So I'm very excited to talk about the next video. It's helicopter insertions and live fire. So tune in for the next video that's to come out soon. Peace out. Bye-bye.